my name is Peter Cinnamon, and you're very welcome to Kicking Match. We're a weekly podcast, which, if you don't know by now, is all about the Irish League. And this week, we're sticking the Irish Cup quarterfinals under the magnifying glass, where the holders held firm, the league leaders left it late, and it was a couple from Campbell, the Tyrone Tornado, twisting the knife in one of this country's most exciting attacking forces when the Reds were swiftly dispatched at home. Meanwhile, it was a weekend off for the Blues and Bandsiders as they gear up for their cup final this Sunday, so buckle up as we review and preview everything that went down and is gonna go down, as we always do. Should be a good one this week. If big, long running orders is anything to go by, then we have got a lot of stuff to tick off. So I better get down to it. Before I do, I want to say a massive and super quick thank you to all those people that did go on to Spotify and follow the podcast. I do appreciate it. Hopefully it's done the job for you and you've got a notification saying, hey, it's up. You've got it nice and sprightly. It's come into your chosen device and you've went, hey, that wasn't a bad thing. I'm glad he recommended I do it. And if you haven't done it and you're sick of checking back on when is that podcast episode going to be up, well, go on to Spotify and hit follow and it will come to you nice and sprightly. So yeah, thanks for that. But we'll go on to this week's guest, someone who I know you guys enjoy hearing from. The last time they were on, I got lots of great feedback. They are a vlogger, they are a content creator, the always inquisitive and never boring, the artist formerly known as Peaky Bandsider. Welcome back to the podcast, my friend.
All right, Peter.
I see you were gallivanting off doing anything but watching Irish League football this weekend. Have you officially sold out yet, or is that in the summer?
Peter, listen, that's what happens whenever your team gets knocked out of the Irish Cup in the previous round.
I can do a bit of plugging here for the vlog. You nipped over to go see your team that you follow over in England, and you're not even a glory hunter with that either. You brought your wee nipper along as well.
Miserable time. Sunderland took the win to his first Sunderland game, and Sunderland got absolutely destroyed 5-1. And it was a Stoke City were well worth the 5-1 victory. So he still enjoyed himself, and we enjoyed a wee weekend away. And we went to Newcastle's ground, did the stadium tour and that there, and he still prefers Sunderland to Newcastle. So I'm not doing too badly.
Sunderland was your team since you were his age, or was there a certain thing that drew you to them?
No, do you really want to hear this? People will be giving me dogs for this here when they hear this. So whenever I was away in Liverpool was the team. When I was at school, you either supported Liverpool or Man United or Arsenal. That was the three teams. There was no other teams. So I was Liverpool. And in 1989, Arsenal won the league in the last day of the season, beaten 2-0. Can't mind who scored the goals. I think Michael Thomas, David Rocastle or someone. But I still remember crying at that day. I was only like 9 years old. And then the next year, Niall Quinn played for Republic of Ireland against Hull in the World Cup and scored a goal. And it got Ireland through to the next round. So I was like, he's the same name as me. I'm going to, support Ireland. And then I followed him. He signed for Man City. So I was like, right, Liverpool don't like his. And I went and supported Manchester City, and then Quinny left City and went to Sunderland, and I went to Sunderland and stayed at Sunderland because I don't know about you, but with Irish League you generally support the team closest to you.
Yes.
But when you support an English team, you sort of have some other sort of connection, and I feel a connection with Sunderland in that we're just crap. You know what I mean? It's like I can sort of resonate with the sort of people and the culture and just how it is. It's if something good happens, you're grateful for it. You don't forget about it in a hurry. So yeah,
I know exactly what you mean. I feel the same affinity towards my Premier League team and the area that it's in, even to the certain extent that I got into American football and I went for New Orleans, and I just love this weird story of this small southern city in the deep south and how Hurricane Katrina, like, I was young and didn't really appreciate to a certain extent how horrific and damaging that was, and to see the story of a team, this big massive stadium in the middle of New Orleans, and how that housed so many people and then it rose up and did well. I get it. But there's also a big sliding doors moment there where if Niall Quinn had stayed at City for a wee bit more, you could have had a lifetime of happiness now. You could be a joyous man. Maybe it wouldn't be the same Peaky we'd all know and love.
Aye, well, look, that's just the way the cookie crumbles, isn't it? I'm not bothered. You see, English football and that there, it's such a world away from what we're used to over here. It's just like it's night and day. I mean, you can't even compare the two. And it's fantasy football. Sunderland aren't in the Premier League, but everything about the club, the facilities and all that there, the 43,000 fans at a championship game, they are a Premier League
Yeah,
team
that is.
in all respects, but the league they're in. It's just a different world.
You're a known football rambler in this country, and for yourself, you often talk about atmosphere as much as you can see that it feels like you're watching a completely different product. What is the one thing when you sat there in the stadium like and watched the game that you thought, I would love if the Irish League could nick a bit of this or try to be a bit more like that? Is there a certain element of the match day experience that you thought more of this would be nice?
The first thing that stood out to me when I was at Sunderland, I was there. I've been there twice this year. Name drop here. Trey Hume sorted us out for tickets on both occasions, and I was able to go like into the corporate hospitality and places like that. Now I don't know whether I was allowed to, but I just walked in them anyway. And honestly, I just walked in. Nobody knew who I was. And Saturday past there, I asked him for access to the players' lounge, so I was in there. But like hospitality alone is a world apart from here. You don't get hospitality at Irish League. You don't have the facilities bar at Windsor for corporate hospitality. Crusaders do lunches and that there, and we did one up with them the other week. But to me, that's the one thing. If the Irish League want to make a bit of money, the clubs need to invest in some sort of decent hospitality where you can bring in your business, 10 people into a wee room, get your 3-course meal, drinks, and go out onto nice padded seats and watch a game. And to me, I think that's a doable thing that they can do in the Irish League.
And you draw me towards something I want to hit on as well. A nice personal moment, at least from where I'm sitting when it comes to you. Coring Crusaders, you're invited down to be the host of an event with Jerry Armstrong. How was that? Was that not a brilliant vindication of how this journey from vlogging going to games is now being picked up by clubs and you're getting to do nice things like that?
Well, I think I haven't said too many bad things about Crusaders, so that probably worked in my favour. I went down there, so I did, and I did a history vlog, and I was talking to the general manager, Barney, and we sort of struck it off straight away, and I was quite in awe of Crusaders Football Club, which I'd never expect before I went down there. So we just sort of built a relationship from there, and he messaged me, funny enough, when I was over at the Sunderland game, asking would I be interested. And I'm not going to lie, I panicked when I seen the message, first of all. And then I sort of talked to a few people and they're like, do it, don't be silly. It seemed to go well. It was short and sweet, but you're sitting there with a legend of football, in Northern Ireland. And then Liam Beckett came in and brought the house down. He grabbed the mic for 5 minutes and the people were falling over themselves with laughter. So it went well. I mean, is it something that I'd be interested in the future? Well,
Well, we will go to Seaview as the first game we will look back upon from this weekend in the Irish Cup. One of 4 quarter-final games that went down. For me, it was the tie of the round going into it. After it, it feels as though it was more of a nip and tuck affair. Crusaders run out using that home advantage very, very well. Has the shimmer, has the shine started to fade slightly from the honeymoon period of Rodney McAree? With the Glens now out and the Crews into the semi-finals now of the Irish Cup, it shows to me what sometimes can be forgotten about until this part of the season, and that is that the Irish Cup is a brilliant gateway into Europe. And while you see all these teams fighting up for the title, trying to find a good position for that playoff, if a team outside of the top 3, which Crusaders are likely to be, are able to lift that cup, don't worry about that whole lottery of the playoff. You're in. Look, they haven't got to the final, but dispatching Glentoran and getting into the semi-finals, they're looking pretty good to potentially get to the final and move on. This could be a really key moment in their season and for what they can achieve this summer.
People constantly underestimate the Cruise. Constantly, they, they played Korean 3 times this season. Two of the games we couldn't get near them. Truthfully, we couldn't get near them. Probably the best team we played over the course of the season in that respect, and that they absolutely dominated us. And they just keep doing it. They know how to do it. They've got the most experienced manager in the league at this stage. The longest serving manager, and they're just such a battling hard team filled with quality players from 1 to 11.
I agree with you because at times when I've seen them, I started to feel like I'm getting a bit excited. I'm getting on the hype train, and I was thinking there while you said it, what is it about this team that perhaps people aren't seeing, that they aren't as gushing as they are about the other teams? And I think it's when you look at it from 1 to 11, you see Heatley and Billy Joe Burns, people go, well, they're probably towards the latter stage of their career. Maybe they've fallen off their pace a wee bit more. Lecky isn't a striker that absolutely bangs them in, has high numbers. People like Forsyth and Winchester are kind of underrated in the grand scheme of things. No massive names at the back, and what they are is a brilliant team of individuals. Laurie's got all the goals. He's got lots of the plaudits, and I mentioned Healy at the start there. He looked fantastic in the highlights. Everything that he's had throughout his career, the ability to drop the shoulder, make the defenders panic, and is still able to whip his boot round a ball and get a great cross or a fantastic shot in on the day. Look, Glentoran had their chances, but Crusaders showed exactly why one-on-one they're dangerous, and they'll be kicking themselves for how inconsistent they've been, especially away from home and especially against the bottom six, because in the big games they are delivering
big time. They're physical. They're a big physical team, and you see if they can get you embroiled in that physical battle, they'll beat you every time because they can bully anyone. And that's what I watched the highlights myself today on Crusaders TV, and you could see that they were pumping balls, 60-yard crossfield balls. They turned it into a game that they wanted to be, and I think that's how they won it.
There's a moment where Shea McCartan's through, and you really think he should have fired that home, and with the shot that nips off the post, the Glens fans thought it was in, but I've also saw a few comments from Glens fans, and it made me start to think as well, look, that Glentoran team does not have a lot of shrinking violets, but perhaps do they lack in that team the steel, the guile, the physicality that Crusaders have. You look at the Glentoran team and you go, there's some brilliant star names in there, but perhaps they're missing something, either experience or that stopper in midfield that can deny attacking players and really see out big games like this.
I think it comes down to it being at Crusaders ground as well, because twice Glentoran have taken Crusaders apart at the Oval. You go to Seaview and it's just a different type of game. Crusaders know how to play on that pitch. They really do. They just know how to do it. Glentoran, just for me, they lack a proper leader. They really, you see in games like that there, you need a leader. There's nobody standing out in that team who's taking control of things and driving the team forward. It's just not there, and you need that. You need that in them big games.
I agree with you there. And if we're talking about home advantage and how key that can be for Crusaders, I must admit, I thought this was an absolute banker. The solitude factor seemed like it was unwavering, particularly against the bottom six. Yes, they had that penalty shootout, lost to Coleraine, which is the reason why you guys are now in the League Cup final. But perhaps the powers of that solitude factor aren't as potent outside of the league. Dungannon Swifts are in the hat for the semi-finals, and I haven't seen anybody that thinks it wasn't everything that they deserved. The last time Cliftonville lost at home in the league was all the way back on the 4th of January last year. They've only lost 4 times in the league in 2 years. But they let it slip. Are we going to peddle the whole Irish Cup curse, or was this just one of those days where they let it slip against a Dungannon side who clearly took their chances?
I think they maybe took it for granted. They're playing Dungannon and Swift's easy victory and into the hat for the next round.
Well, it was a Campbell double, really well taken calls from Reese Campbell. I think a lot of people have highlighted that for Dungannon. He is one of those people. He's one of the real bright sparks in that team. And in the big game, he delivers. Not really known for his header, but a great ball nipped in from the line for him to knock it past guard side. And then the second one, like I've seen people claim it may have been offside, but he's able to go through and has the calm and the poise to get that second goal. From there, Cliftonville are chasing the game. Joe Gormley gets the goal back, but it's the heroics of one Curry at the back for Dungannon. Defensively, that hasn't been an area that's been a place of strength for them, but they stood up and held on. Probably the biggest highlight of Dungannon's season so far. And it's amazing because I was at their game against Knockbreda, and Knockbreda should have been the team that was sitting there in the next round. But that's not how football goes. They're into the semi-finals, and it's interesting to see. Yes, it's only the one game there in the semis, but Dungannon, will they be distracted as they try and keep this running, as their bid for survival keeps on going? The other results there, Lorne show how they can leave it late and do the hard work. Late goal from new signing Ryan, how valuable he has been in this run-in since January. They leave it late. The Welders are disappointed, distraught. I felt like it was a bit of a coming out party for the Danny Blanchflower Stadium. Everybody's looking at it going on the TV thinking, well, that's pretty nice wee spot. The dream of the Welders, what a brilliant run they have had in the Cup, is over. And are Larne potentially on for a double slash not really a treble, but they'll try and claim it if they get all three?
That's scary, isn't it? How they are, and they've been the team this season, and oddly enough, even though they've been top of the league for a long time, they seem to be under the radar. You know what I mean? People aren't really talking about them. They're more talking about, Glentoran and their crisis after crisis, or Linfield just not being as good. People aren't talking about Lauren.
At no point have they had like a big moment of drama or worry. I'm sure the stats are out there, but I can't remember them even losing 2 games in a row at any point. The awful bad moments seem to be drawing 0-0 on Boxing Day, the time they got beat by Linfield at Windsor Park. But the other side of that is there's been no big heroic moments that we'll look back upon. Yes, there's probably that game against Carrick last week where they were able to hold on and win 3-2. You have that drubbing of Linfield at Windsor Park in October. But outside of that, it's just been win here, hold on there, get a nice goal there. Leroy Miller's been a bit of a story. Lee Bonus has been a bit of a story. But they lose Ben Doherty, which could have off-balanced that team. They bring in Thompson in the midfield. They stick Micheál Glynn over on the left. Ben Doherty's doing great in the League of Ireland to start things off. But Larne haven't missed it at all. I think when you look back, the story for the season for a lot of teams will be how well or how poorly they did recruitment. It's clear. If you're to give Larne a grade on their recruitment, even in January, if you're adding that in as well, it's an A. They've nailed it.
They have, and they brought in players who are big, strong, physical players. They brought in players to suit the league, whereas before they were bringing in players to play fancy football. And I talked to Tiernan Lynch when can't mind who Corium were playing, but he was down watching the game. I think it was Linfield actually, and he says, "No, we've adapted. We looked at things in the summer and we realised how things had to change." You can see that their style of play at times is more direct, and they're with the likes of Leroy Miller and Lee Bonus and all, you can be a wee bit more direct and you can be physical, and that's exactly what they're doing.
It's funny you say that because a lot of criticisms I would have had for Linfield last season is that it seemed to be a lot of passes back and forward, try and break it down as if they've been watching like Liverpool or Man City too much. It's like teams were absolutely stacking the box, but Linfield just didn't have that X factor where they could break through and get a goal. Clearly, with Lee Bonus settling into the team now, and Leroy Miller is like a cliche when we're talking about this Laurentine because his ability to break from midfield has been game breaking for them on numerous times, and also shows you where if you can game plan your team and use the strengths of your players to the best of their abilities, you can win games. And that's always been true at this level of football, but it's having the ability to see what these players can do and be able to exploit it. Because yes, Leroy Miller was a highly rated player in the league, but I don't think anybody would have put him on the pedestal of where he is now. He's playing full-time football, of course. He's clearly in a better team, and he's been put in a different role. But I was talking at the start of the season, looking at it going, well, Taylor Lynch has a lot to prove. You earn your stripes as a manager through recruitment to a certain extent, because that can be handled by other people. But it's how you use the players at your disposal and how you build that team. And they haven't looked invincible at times, but they have been able to show that they're dangerous and hardworking and forthright. And they're into the semi-finals of the Irish Cup and have done it the hard way at times, taking out Linfield, leaving it late against the Welders. But even when they're on shaky ground, for the most part, they've been able to set themselves and win out. And a team that had to do it, not the easiest way, not the cleanest way, was Ballymena. Since January, their form, their season has had a bit of a nosedive. They've been sleepwalking at times through some of these games, and they fall behind to Ballyclare down at Dixon Park. And I was thinking, this game is ripe for a shock. Ballyclare, who's doing well in the championship, Ballymena, who sometimes can't get out of their way, can't string patches of play together. They go 1-0 down, and Ballymena fight back, get it 1-1, bring it extra time, miss a penalty before extra time, then score one almost automatically after extra time. If you want to see what I would describe, it's all opinions here, as a blatant penalty, that penalty that Ballyclare gave away for the second penalty, the one that they scored in extra time, the player pretty much barges into and pushes over and then looks at the referee going, what do you mean that was a penalty? And then Dave McDade is able to waltz his way, show the quality he has. 3-1. It doesn't cover over the cracks that team's currently sitting in the league. They've got a big summer ahead. But we have our semi-finals set. Dungannon Cruise, Larne Ballymena. I would be surprised if it's anything bar Larne and Crusaders final. Both those games are set to be played on the 1st of April. Let's play the fun, nerdy Irish League thing. Where would you have those games be played, Mr. Peaky?
Mornview. I think the games have to be played in grass. To me, you don't play a semi-final of a cup on a plastic pitch. So you've ruled out every plastic pitch in the land. Do you want to play it at the Oval, where the pitch is notoriously bad at that time of season? It firms up, it gets really bobbly. Mornview for me.
Mornview in the Oval, probably then. Where would you stick Larne? I don't really know. This is for those pencil pushers to decide, and for us to complain about on Twitter.
Larne Ballymena is going to be in Belfast, isn't it? Crusaders against Dungannon is going to be at Mornview.
Yeah, I would probably go for that, but again, I'm not too fretting. Whatever way it works, it's clear the final's going to be played at Windsor Park. Interesting. It's a great chance for it. We could see a repeat of Crusaders Ballymena, Dungannon Larne, Dungannon Ballymena. That would be a weird one. That would throw all of the European playoff stuff into totally up in the air. It'd be a complete mix-up there if that was to happen. But we'll see. Like I said, 1st of April we go. But there was also 2 games that took place in the Premiership, both down at the bottom. We'll start down at Newry. I know Glenavon aren't on a great run. In fact, they got beat by Newry at home 2-1 the weekend before. But sometimes when you need a win, you'll do it ugly. And I know there's not any awards given out for this, but I must say, I think Jamie Dornan's goal against Newry might be up there as just one of the, can you say the worst goals? It was just a it was a poor bit of goalkeeping. Let's not linger on it too much, but it was just a if if there's a goal to win the game, that doesn't feel like an all time classic there.
Oh, the goal was horrific, wasn't it? It was. I don't, how do you describe it?
It's kind of a it's like a cross, but it's not a great cross. It's kind of a thump from the right of the box. It's kind of high. It's there for the goalkeeper to pick up, and he just doesn't judge the flight of the ball correctly. It kind of slips and bounces in, and yeah, Glenavon. That's the only goal of the game. Glenavon win 1-0. Talked about highlight reels last week. Newry have had some poor goals scored against them. Usually they're from like 30 yards out, but this one is not one to remember. But Glenavon will be happy that it ends their streak, it ends their winless streak that goes all the way back to the start of January. And Newry are looking a wee bit better with that 3 points on Dungannon and is 11 on Portadown, but they would have looked at that Glenavon game thinking, we've beat them twice this season, another win here, and we can breathe a little bit easier. But Glenavon are able to make it happen down at the showgrounds. Well, a game that I was at, and I would similarly say there was 4 goals, but wouldn't have had too many highlights out of the chances on goal. It's not looking good for Portadown. In fact, Niall Curry says their game, Portadown's game against Newry next week, if they don't win, they are pretty much down, or they're pretty much relegated. No games against Carrick's a given for any team, but after winning 2 games in a row at home, you've got your third chance at home to go against a team in the bottom 6. Portadown would have felt confident, they would have had a bit of belief behind them. They start really poorly. Carrick take a justified lead 12, 13 minutes in. Portadown get a really ugly goal in itself. This far post run in that's tapped in by a wing back to pull it back unjustifiably to 1-1. They kind of go back and forward for the rest of the half. Then the second half, Portadown don't turn up in a game they really could have done with winning and a point at minimum probably to help them up, particularly with that Glenavon Newry game up in the air. But Carrick showed the bits of class that they have, and Nidis Makalitis with 2 goals of great quality. I think the Portadown defenders helped him. First one, that needs to be headed away. The second one, the defender needs to stick a boot in and knock that away from him. But look, when the ball was at his feet, he had the time to do it, but he knocked it in with a bit of whip and a sublime finish for both. He is looking like a really sharp signing. They probably could have waited to the summer and picked him up there, but Sure King said, no, I've got to have him, and looks like a fine addition to this team. And I will say, going into this split, the favourites in my eyes, and I think recent performances will back this up, this is Carrick's to lose. They are potentially a dark horse going in to that split. Yes, they're not going to have any games at home where they are getting these good results, but with McGuckin holding the ball up, Ben Tilney is an absolute live wire on the wing. They're very structured, Carrick. They've got Andrew Mitchell, and now they've got Nennis Makalitis, who was involved in all 3 goals. They've got a pretty good team crafted together. I wouldn't say they're going to trouble top half next season, but they have been the surprise package from the start, and now any result I see for Cruz, it's not a surprise at all to me.
Carrick have assembled a great team, haven't they? Like there is quality all over the pitch, and there's experience all over the pitch. And I think you're right. They're not going to be a top 6 team because I mean the teams in the top 6 have better younger players mostly. But Carrick has such an experienced team. It wasn't a surprise to me that they beat Portadown because of the quality they do have. I think they have better quality in their team than Portadown have. Carrick getting into the playoffs would probably be what they set out to achieve at the start of the season, or even halfway through this season. If you look at the signings they made in January, they were definitely, that's what their aim is.
Well, they do have experience, and they do have players who on their day can step up. And like, I'm actually quite a big fan of McGuckin, and like I said there before, I thought Tilney looked brilliant. And for Portadown, after 2 brilliant 3-1 wins at home, where the fans are potentially starting to believe, it all somewhat fell down back to earth with a bump. I said at the end of my report on Saturday that Portadown are potentially running out of games, and like a few Portadown fans talked to me there on Saturday, or I was talking to them about how they feel and how it could all go, and I kind of played out the scenario where if Portadown are on 12 points now, Dungannon on 20, Newry on 23. If you were to give Portadown all 5 wins in the split, that would give them 15 points, and that would put them on 27 points. They've got to play Newry. I think they've got Glentoran and then Crusaders. So it's like big game against Newry, unlikely against Glentoran and Crusaders. That would only put them on 27 points, 4 ahead of Newry and 7 ahead of Dungannon. So even if they were to win all their games, do you believe that Dungannon would get less than 7 points between now and the end of the season? Newry isn't going to get more than 4 points, and Portadown would have to win out when Newry are facing Dungannon. They're facing a potentially distracted Ballymena, a Glenavon who doesn't know if they want to show up. Are Carrick going to take it chill one day because they've already got 7th place? This, even if they win against Newry, and that's a big ask, this is actually a massive uphill struggle for Portadown here, and they have done brilliantly winning those 2 games against Dungannon and Glenavon, but it highlights 8 points away from 11th place how much behind the 8 ball they've put themselves.
I think it's too big a task for Portadown to stay up at this stage. They just didn't have any. There's no room for manoeuvre. You know what I mean? It's simply you have to take points out of every game. Uh, Look, maybe Dungannon will take their eye off the ball, because they've got a cup semi-final coming up, and if Portadown can take advantage of that, you could end up in the last day shootout. You know what I mean? Like it could come that far. I just think there's too much work to be done and not enough time to do it.
They're relying on Glenavon, Ballymena, and Carrick being up to the task against Dungannon and Newry, and Ballymena have done them no favours against Newry. Neither have Glenavon done them any favours against Newry either. So it's going to be really tough for them, and that's again counting the fact that perhaps they could go on an amazing run in the split. So I'm not saying that a certain lady is singing, but to roll out another old cliche, I think it's fair to say that they may be clearing their throat, and it's difficult because I think for a lot of Portadown fans, like I predicted them at the start of the season that they might have a record low total, and seeing them on Saturday, they didn't really turn up at the first half. They did something in the second half, but Carrick looked great, and Portadown didn't seem to turn up when they needed to. So they might not get. We'll have to see. We'll have to see how the rest of the season goes, but it's not looking good. You mentioned earlier about potential grounds where the Irish Cup semi-finals could be played. Mournview is one of them. You highlighted grass, and it reminded me of something. Your club, Coleraine, have in the past few years installed what people would say would be a league-leading 3G pitch. I was very impressed with it when I was up there earlier in the season. Big sprinklers, looks really good. How have you found it? Because you talk about the whole grass thing, and we're talking about Portadown there. Portadown have started to filter out, or more clear details have started to come out about this redevelopment of Shamrock Park, which is a new stand is going to be put into that big old, what people would probably describe as the Life Without Jesus Makes No Sense stand that's been sitting there for like 15 years dormant. They're going to put a new stand there. Their plans are they're going to put a bubble pitch thing at one end, and they're also going to move the pitch. And a part of the plans is to make the pitch 3G. So another one bites the dust or bites the carpet. What do you think of like that? Are you going to tell Portadown fans out there that 3G is the future and it's a revolution, and to forget about the old ways of grass and mud and getting the flamethrower out in cold days?
Peter, where do you start with this one? There's different sides to stories. Me, I like a grass pitch. You can't beat a good grass surface to play on. It's miles better than 3G for starters. It just is. It's more natural. Your feet will sink into the ground for starters. Whereas in a 3G, it's like playing on tarmac. It's firm. It's sore on you, and that's just from the physical side. Watching games, the only ground that I see consistently decent football on a 3G is probably Koreans. Whenever you go up the Crusaders, maybe it's just the style of play. The ball's on the air most of the time. It bounces on the ground, it bounces up about 30 feet. Cliftonville, they keep the ball on the ground, but they have a new surface in, so it's going to be decent at this stage. I don't think 3G is the be all and end all. I really don't. I know why teams use it because of the money aspect of it. But to me, you need 3G's not ever going to be as good as grass. And even the League of Ireland, dare I say, want to get rid of the 3G.
This is what I wanted to talk to you about because I am slightly being devil's advocate and I am being slightly pedantic here. But I thought I would reflect this view anyway because it got me thinking, and I think people appreciate discussion and debate or talking out thought processes here because clearly when you look at Crusaders and perhaps other teams, they highlight how a synthetic surface is there's a chance, there's an ability to create revenue. Right, I've been on the Seaview pitch for various different things, various different events. I get it. That's Belfast. What somebody highlighted to me, and it was Michael Scott from Glenavon when he was on the podcast many months ago. I kind of joked with him about the 3G pitch, and he said we would never get a 3G pitch at Moranview. I was like, oh, why is that? Because Gary doesn't like it. And he said, well, one, they have to be maintained. Two, we're starting to see this second generation. It hasn't actually changed too much generation wise, but we're starting to see all of a sudden the pitches that first came in are being ripped up and put down again. He put forward the idea to me that in a lot of these areas, there's lots of 3G pitches already that are being used by the community. So there isn't this big cry for if only there was a 3G pitch for 60-side tournaments or for schools, etc., the community. It's not that. And I actually looked in Portadown. Well, clearly the Anna, which is not too far away, Anna United have a 3G pitch. Is that being booked out 7 days a week? And then the other question is, because where do clubs find the money to replace this? Dungannon have got a brand new surface this year. That they got that through a loan, I believe, through UEFA. So are we, we talked about finances in the league on this podcast a fair bit. And the way Portadown are looking to fund the planning process or getting the whole surveys done on the ground and on the pitch and etc. in the stand is that they're creating schemes where fans contribute cash to pay costs for these surveys. So if the survey is going to cost 5 figures and what's replacing a new 3G pitch 180 grand or whatever it is or something like that, where are these clubs going to find this in 10 years and 7 years? And that's, of course, if it doesn't fluctuate. Are these pitches potentially an anchor around the neck of these clubs? Where if they're not generating revenue through people renting it out, where all of a sudden they're looking at it going, if we're asking our fans to pay this X £1,000 of money, are they going to save up enough money to pay for the 6 figures that it may cost to relet?
Well, with Koreans pitch, it's saving them money because they're not having to rent out, places to train anymore. And I know a lot of their academy teams train on it, and I would imagine that there probably is money that passes hands into the club. I know that sounds silly, but if the academy's using the pitch, I'd imagine they probably pay some sort of money through the academy to it, and then Korean can claim everything back off the UEFA Solidarity Fund, and they're ending up making money. You know what I mean? That's how they're doing it, rather than renting it out to a local junior club or whatever.
Absolutely, and I'm sure that's what Portadown are keen to do from their academy and their youth teams. And there is the other side of it. I remember when Dungannon got their pitch in, they were saying, look, we've got so many teams that are needing to train. We need to use this as a facility to just have the amount of games they want on it. So that's perhaps an answer there. But I just, as someone that's been through it recently, was there any blowback from people or fans suggesting, how are we going to afford replacing this when we are on the precipice of potentially going full time and pushing the club forward? Is this going to stop us progressing when you level up going, right, how much does it cost to maintain a grass pitch, then how much does it cost to rip up a 3G1 if that is exactly what's required?
The plan at Korean, and it's documented, was that they get the 3G down, and then they're hoping to get, the money to get the stadium upgraded. They've tried through the British government's leveling up fund, and they're hoping with the whole executive, they're talking about getting the money through that, and then they're going to rip up the 3G pitch and put it as the training pitch, and then get a new semi-synthetic surface into the showgrounds. That was the plan. They have one of them hybrids, but it comes down to money, and if the money's not going to come from the leveling up fund nor the executives sub-regional stadia funding, I don't know what's going to happen. It's a good question, but here, Crusaders are ripping up their pitch at the end of the season and getting a new surface down because they're, I think, 7 years old. They change them every 7 years. Derry Cities, they've been told their pitch won't pass the inspections next year, so they're going to have to rip it up whether they like it or not.
Myth bust this. Why is it true that Derry are looking to potentially go back to grass? And is there a particular reason? Is it a cost thing, or why is it?
They want to go back to grass because they play good football, and you can't play as good football on the 3G. And the 3G pitch up at Derry's done. It's not a good 3G surface. They want grass. The manager wants a grass surface, a good grass surface. They went down to Tallock there, and they're playing the best grass surface in the land, and they're beating the champions down there. So they want grass. The fans want grass. The players want grass. The manager wants grass. Look, everybody wants grass if it's a good surface. You'll not see one footballer in the country who's going to say, no, I'd rather have a 3G if you had a good grass surface.
What's the argument that a lot of the youth team players are so used to spending their underage careers on these synthetic surfaces that actually it's the older generation, men in their late 20s and 30s, but it's these established players that aren't used to it, and essentially down the line these young players that are lighting up the league are well used to 3G.
I'm sure the younger generation would rather play on grass if it's a good surface. Come on, you have to. Maybe I'm wrong. There was something there mentioned in the Irish League show the other week. I can't remember which manager it was, but he says he had concerns that all the young boys over here are playing in 3G pitches all the time. How are they going to go over across the water and go to the likes of your West Ham Uniteds or whatever and be at the same level as the players there when the players there haven't been training in the 3G? But I think they are over in England. Like whenever I was in Newcastle, we're going in the metro and you're going past 3G pitches constantly. So it's happening over in England as well at lower levels. Like 3G it's everywhere.
What's the breakdown of League of Ireland off the top of your head? That would be 3G to grass.
There's two teams in the top flight who's 3G, and it's Dundalk, and their ground's awful, or their pitch is awful. The ground is as well, and Derry City, and the rest of the teams are playing in grass, and they're all decent surfaces.
But what happens when there's cold weather, Peaky? How do they play their games?
Sure, the way the league season runs, they tend to avoid the worst. You're going in this as summer football debate. I don't even think we want to go there.
I don't know. It came to my head and I thought that would be funny. Yes, so that's that there. Hey, there's been a bit of fun chat online because the women's game on this island are having an All-Ireland Cup competition or an All-Ireland Cup competition. Crack open the All-Ireland League debate. For you, sir, I've been starting over the past few weeks at the request of some people asking everybody that comes on to answer the big questions about summer and All-Ireland League stuff. Show us your colours, sir, in regards to these debates. Do you have a strong opinion one way or the other?
About the women's All-Ireland Cup or just the men's? Or
well, if you have a strong opinion on the women's All Ireland Cup, you're welcome to share it. But when it comes to the men's game, David McDade on Twitter, he's doing a Peaky. He's saying his opinions, trying to stir up a bit of crack. He says let's quote him directly. He says, "Could be trouble to be fair, but it's the next step if Irish football has to go forward." You dance between both these leagues, Peaky. Would you like them to be separate, or would you like to see both Derry and Coleraine go at it in June?
What I would like to see is fantasy football. I'd like to see an all Ireland professional league consisting of maybe 16 teams, 16 professional teams. But realistically, is it going to happen? It's not going to happen anytime soon. Is another cup competition going to happen? As long as the two leagues are run at separate times a year, it makes it extremely difficult. I think that's why it makes it easier for this Women's Cup, because both women's leagues are, we'll call them what, summer leagues, and this tournament that they're hosting is during the Women's World Cup when there is no league matches. So there's a gap in the season. Everything fits into place. Does it fit into place in the men's game? Not one bit at the minute. And there doesn't seem to be enough appetite for changing the Irish League because everybody wants their Boxing Day fixture, which is fair enough because the crowds that it brings in is absolutely, it's League of Ireland-esque. It takes a special occasion for us to fill the stands and grounds. Whereas like in League of Ireland, like it's a Monday night, there's a full range of fixtures in League of Ireland and the stands are rammed in 3 of the 5 games that I've been flicking over and watching. You look at Bohemian, like it's sold out. You look at Dundalk, rammed.
There's been a lot of sellouts, and look, I've never been someone that's had a massive keen eye on the League of Ireland. So I apologise to all the people that have been listening to the podcast over the last few weeks and thought, as soon as you talk to that Kieran Burke man, you can't stop talking about League of Ireland, Peter. I like the comparison, all right? And that's why we're here. And they are selling out grounds. We are in the we were in the middle of February. Now we're into March. So maybe that's something that the people that prefer to have the schedule stay where it is. Look, if the League of Ireland can sell out in February and March, so can we. We all know it's start of season. That's why the interest is big there in the League of Ireland. So we will hit pause on that and we will shimmy over to the latest feature that I've also had. It's the poll. I've been doing a poll every week for like the past 2, so that makes it a certain thing. It was asking what do people think, or who do people think has been the best young talent the Irish League has had over the past few years. I put out Sean Moore, Stuart Dallas, Gavin White, Patrick Kelly, Mark Sykes, or Paul Smith. Before I reveal the winner, who would you have picked in that poll?
Try Hume. He left him out, man.
But he didn't have the same impact on the league. This is the thing. You would look at the careers they've had. Clearly, Stuart Dallas has had the best career of them. He was starting earlier, etc., etc. But when it comes to their impact on the league, their time when their star was shining bright, who do you think was the best young talent of those 6 that I listed?
You're going to go with Dallas, aren't you? It has to be Dallas because of, he was part of the Crusaders team that won the league, and then he's gone over and he's playing Premier League football in England and he's got an international career. Has to be him.
And 53% of people said yes, followed by Sean Moore on 22, Gavin White on 13, Mark Sykes on 9, Paul Smith on 3%. Not a single vote for Patrick Kelly. Surprised by thought. I thought some recency bias or some Bandsiders fans would have give him a wee nudge. For the sake of it. That also gets me to transition very slightly into, we'll go to this week's poll. I'm going to do it very simply, and that is, please don't vote for your own team here. As a fan, if you could pick who you would like to see or want to see win the league, would you rather see Cliftonville, Larne, the Blues, or I'm going to put an other? But realistically, it's probably going to be one of those 3. So if you want to vote other, aka you'd rather have Glentoran, why you don't support Glentoran or Coleraine or Crusaders, go ahead. We all know that's very unlikely. For yourself, for whatever reason you want to tell me, if it wasn't to be Coleraine, and it's not looking likely, who would you prefer to win the league and why?
North Belfast team. Which one, though? The reason why I say a North Belfast team is simply because I don't want the league to be won by a team through money. Lauren have invested a lot of money. They brought in players. They're spending 100 grand on players. Linfield are giving players good wages. That's why I'm sort of siding with North Belfast. The Crusaders are sort of 3/4 full time. Cliftonville are sort of part time. But because Cliftonville and Korean clearly don't like each other, I'm going to go with Crusaders.
There you go. You're banging the drum for Crusaders on this occasion. Other
I would have said Cliftonville until the last couple of games we played them.
Could this be the new Portadown Glentoran where it seems to be a feisty rivalry and everybody's like, but why though?
Oh, we know what the reason is. We're not going to talk about it on here. You can see it, like the players really want to beat each other, and on the pitch is a good rivalry.
And a rivalry of very poor penalties based on that last game in the Irish Cup. Before we finally go into the games, looking ahead, I'm going to quickly note that this team has already probably been published as in the squad for Northern Ireland, but I thought I would reflect that Northern Ireland are facing a bit of a crisis for Michael O'Neill's first game back in charge. Who is he going to name in the squad? Because Johnny Evans looks as though he's not available. Stephen Davis is also injured. Corey Evans, Stuart Dallas is still injured. Ali McCann's out. Now McGinn has just cracked himself recently. Shane Lavery's going to be out. So who's going to be in there? And if that is the case, I feel as though Conor McMenamin's probably going to keep his space. That he's out back from injury and doing great things. I'll not get into, is it going to be, is Dion Charles going to stay there? I would say enter the fray Colfie Balmer, maybe jumping into the thing. Will Trey Hume stick around, your old mate? Probably. But if there was a player from, we've talked about this before, but, there's been talk in the papers about how, hey, Lee Bonus should be considered because, they should be looking at the Irish League a bit more. I would say, and maybe it's just because I think he's got skill, ability, diligence, talent, that actually, if they are a bit short up top, maybe the games are too big to even risk this. But, Lee Bonus isn't a bad shout to get him into the squad.
I agree with you. Totally agree with you. Why not? See what he's got. Because Kyle Lafferty's came to the Irish League and he has looked like a pub player at times.
It hasn't worked out so far getting the goals. And the reason why I would go for Lee Bonus over Shevlin, who everyone knows I keep saying the same wonderful things about, is that perhaps what Lee Bonus has is some physical traits that perhaps Shevlin needs to prove at a higher level before you're given that big punt to. I would say Lee has the physicality, he has that dogged nature, he's able to do a lot of the running and the hassling. That look, they're not going to be playing against big teams. They've got Finland and they've got San Marino, and realistically, if Lee Bonus gets picked, I don't think he's getting a minute on the pitch. But what he can offer fits Northern Ireland. It's like Stuart Dallas up top, He has the chance to push on. And I think if Lee Bonus gets selected in a Northern Ireland squad, he's gone to England by the summer. And is that also in Michael O'Neill's head where he's like, right, I've got two or three free squad places here. I bring a Lee Bonus, see what he's about, see what he's able to do. I can see the talent. There's a stat there about the amount of assists he's given as well as goals. Stunning. This could be a way he could leapfrog, get him into a League One team or whatever, and then he could be a nice player to come back in. And maybe we could see the return of old Irish League favourites Michael Smith and Liam Boyce.
I'm in the Bonus boat. But what happens if Bonus does get selected? Does that mean Lauren get a few postponements?
Well, does he even know how to play on grass? He's having to play so many games. No, I'm only joking. Well, flip me, that's another quagmire. Maybe Kenny Bruce will be saying you're not allowed to go. Not happening, mate.
But here, it's probably something people haven't even considered. I do think that he should be called into the national team. And even if it's only, and I don't want to, well, you know what? Even if it's only a token gesture, I think that Michael O'Neill should be bringing in the top talent that is in the Irish League into his squad. Like, I really do, because every squad he has, there's going to be 4 or 5 players who don't get a minute anyway. Why not bring the Irish League players in, the top ones who are at the top of their game, and let them experience what it's like at that level. And it maybe will help them as players develop further and maybe, get their moves across the water and become professional full-time footballers at a higher standard.
Well, we've been able to see, I referenced it, Liam Boyce came through Irish League, Michael Smith came through Irish League, Stuart Dallas, Gavin White, Shane Laverty had a bit of time there as well. So, there's a certain extent where Conor McMenamin was being talked about for leaving the league after his performances in a Northern Ireland shirt and getting into the squads. I agree. It's that whole thing where people say about putting yourself in the shop window. Selfishly, Michael O'Neill could go, you're the young talents, this could help project you forward. And if all of a sudden, I'm sure some people would say, look, Lee Bonus is playing full-time football anyway, what does it matter? But some of these top players, they get a move across the water, they improve, and all of a sudden you are getting these players like the standard of Gavin White that are the backbone of your team. And it's all through the pathway that you've sneakily on the sly created. Tinder for football, except it's for League One teams or Championship teams.
What about this here for some outside the box? Why not bring young Moore into the squad and see what happens?
Oh, no. If you were a Northern Ireland fan, you would probably be saying, absolutely stick him on for 8 seconds against San Marino and get him nailed. But I think...
Well, my question would be, would he take the call up? I know he's only a young man, but he's got the world. He's got the world at his feet. His talent is it's outstanding. And what does he do? He's been touted for the Republic. They've called him into their training squad. I know he's only 17 and he'd be leapfrogging under 18 and under 20s. But why not do it to see what he does? Would he go for it? Would he come into the squad?
Mm-hmm.
Just something really far out there. Show people, you know what, the IFA mean business here. Don't sit back and let players be poached.
That I would probably say those are those conversations that no doubt will be happening behind the scenes. How can we interest you? Anybody's Northern Ireland fan, I think you would be pushing the IFA to do everything you can to help persuade Sean Moore that Northern Ireland is the team that he should go for. Obviously, it's a very personal decision, and whatever decision he makes, he's totally welcome to do it. But I do look at Sean Moore, and yes, at 17, I'm playing in the Irish League, but I think we can all see with the trajectory of his career could be something we haven't seen in the Irish League for a long, long time. He could go to a really, really high level, and I think both camps would absolutely love to have him nailed down because I think he's a future international player for either team he decides to go for.
Yeah, there's no doubt that he is going across the water in summer. It's another Paddy Kelly move, isn't it? He is going across the water. Who he's going to, we're not entirely sure. West Ham seem to be poaching a wild lot from Northern Ireland at the minute, whatever their plan is. Sunderland have obviously done business over here. That's the teams that I've seen mentioned with them.
Well, I think the answer will be dollar bills, y'all. Who wants to pay the tax and make it happen? I look forward to seeing where his career goes. Before we get into this weekend's games, and a big one for you, I have to talk to you about this. The Jordan Stewart red card for Glenalva against Glentoran. Look, he gets sent off for pushing over Bobby Burns, but can I say that was a wee bit funny the first time I saw it?
It's hilarious because if you watch the footage back from the Crusaders Glentoran game, there's 4 or 5 players who were pushed over and there was no red cards. So, there's no consistency there.
Bobby Burns had a bit of a altercation with a different player, and then George Stewart comes over. No need to get involved. And before Bobby Burns has got back to his feet fully, he's getting shoved to the ground. I think clear red card in my eyes, but I just thought it was slightly amusing all the same. Right, I have you on to preview this League Cup final showing on Sunday on Sky Sports. You go to Windsor, a place which is not a happy hunting ground for Coleraine. Are you still haunted by the fact that season where you run Crusaders so close, you almost went invincible, but the one place you lost was Windsor Park against the Blues? They had the runabout of you a few weeks ago down at that venue. What is the feeling within the Coleraine crew ahead of the League Cup final? Because it's a big game.
Conor McHenry should be back. Farn played on Saturday for the reserves, so we've got our centre back available again. So we're near enough back to full strength for the final. Oran Kearney's a smart man. He's played against the Blues a couple of weeks ago up at Windsor. He knows how they'll set up and play, and I think he's smart enough to make sure that we stay in the game. I don't think we'll go gung ho. I think we'll try and absorb a bit of pressure and hit them on the counter attack. And it's the day that Shevlin steps up to the plate for us at Windsor, because it's the one ground that he doesn't seem to do it at.
I was going to say this. I don't have many memories of him wheeling away in Windsor Park, be it in a blue and white striped shirt or in the blue of Linfield either. Not that he had a prolific spell when he was at Linfield, but this is a weird one because I think Linfield come into it a bit out of sorts. They have a huge game against Larne on Tuesday night, so you probably already know the result of that. We don't. People out there listening, so how will they set up? Could they be impacted by that? And as I've said here before, Linfield haven't shown that they can do it in the big games. Yes, they've been able to beat you guys, but they have lost, was it 4 penalty shootouts this year? And haven't turned up when the pressure's on. They've had Boxing Day. Yes, I'm not saying it's a complete wipeout, but could the pressure be another factor? Could they wilt once again? And they underdog, nothing to lose Coleraine. Could this suit you guys in this counter-attacking, rapid play of the ball up, a bit of magic from McKendry, Shevlin getting ahead of a defender, in a Linfield team that doesn't feel settled and feels a wee bit all sorts when it comes to their starting 11 week to week?
I can hope, Peter. I can hope. Look, we don't bother going up to the game if we don't think we can win the game. And every Korean fan will be going to Windsor on Sunday thinking that we can win the game. I don't think we'll care about Linfield. We'll just care about ourselves. If Korean do what Korean can do, Korean will win the game. You know, we haven't seen anything from Linfield all season to say that they're a cut above the rest. It's been such a weird season for them. But look, they are the best and they have been the best. So I think Korean have to play a 10 out of 10 game to win.
I think you're absolutely right there. This is going to be significantly dependent on how Coleraine play, because I think I know what we'll see from Linfield. I know what the floor is for Linfield. I don't know if they have an absolute rampaging stormer of a final in them, but I know for Coleraine, I don't think the floor is as high, but if they turn up, they can absolutely do it. And I think they'll go in as underdogs, but I don't think they'll go in as massive underdogs. And I know what you mean when you say it's about absorbing pressure and hitting Linfield on the break. But when I see Coleraine against some of the lower teams in the league, and when they look very dangerous, it's when you're able to control the ball. Is it the battle in midfield against the top teams? Is that what Coleraine has been losing, and it is why you're able to look incredible against the Dungannon and not so much when Glenavon come to town? Or
You
Glentoran come to
can't
town?
mention Glenavon. I don't know what else beat Glenavon, but they just beat us. No, look, you're playing at Windsor Park. It's the biggest pitch in the country. You can't set up the same way. It's such a big pitch. If Korean go and try and play expansive football, Linfield punish them because Linfield have the talent to punish you. The likes of Fertanen, if Cooper comes into a game, you know, Linfield win it. Simple as that. You know, to me, you have to absorb the pressure and you have to be smart. If I'm the Korean manager on Sunday, I'd try and nullify Chris Shields. I know that sounds a bit silly, but everything.
I was going to ask you, who scares you in that team? Is
Well,
it
it's
Shields?
not that Shields scares me, it's simply that he controls the game for them. If Chris Shields gets the ball, he controls the game. I'd be putting McKendry or someone, you know, when we don't have the ball, get in about him. Don't give him a minute's space. Don't let him dictate the play. Don't let him pass the ball out wide or feed the ball into Mulgrew and that there. That's what I'd be doing. The player who scares me for them is Vertainen. He scares me from an attacking point of view because he's got that there sort of, you don't know what he's going to do at times. He's not predictable. Cooper would scare me on his day, but Cooper hasn't had his day this season.
Who needs to have a great day, a good game for Coleraine to be lifting this trophy on Sunday?
Every player. Simple as that. Every player. You can't have any passengers on Sunday. If there's any passengers, Linfield win.
Fascinating game ahead. We will whip our way through the other games that are happening. Not a whole lot of league action between now and the next time I'll be chatting with you. A strew of games on Tuesday after this weekend. Mainly because Coleraine and Linfield didn't play this weekend. Coleraine take on Ballymena, Larne and Linfield. David Healy says if Larne win this game, Linfield are out of the title race. And I believe him. Linfield have to focus on Larne and nothing else until that final whistle blows at Inver.
Look, Linfield have to win tomorrow. It's massive for them. Like, it's so big. It's arguably a bigger game than Sunday for them because they still have a brave and good chance to win the league. Because of obviously the games at the split. They played Larne twice more this season. Linfield will believe at this point that they can go on and win that league, but they have to win tomorrow.
What would you rather, from a Coleraine point of view, would you rather them coming into the game having lost against Larne? Or is that a scary proposition and you would like them to be absolutely pumping after beating Larne away and then in comes Shevlin stealing 6 inches on Roscoe or something at the back to head in the 93rd minute?
Peter, I don't care about the result tomorrow. What I would say is I hope it's a really, really, really tough battle with red cards left, right, and centre.
Do you care what team Oran Kearney puts out against Ballymena? Or would you rather them get a win and be set up, ready to go for Sunday?
Big problem with the Mora, Peter, which obviously will be in the past, people listening to this, is Coleraine have a number of players and bookings. So Lyndon Kane can potentially miss the final. Conor McDermott can potentially miss the final. I think that I might be wrong with this one. I think Stephen O'Donnell can potentially miss the final if they pick up yellow cards.
What you're saying is you're playing centre back tomorrow against David McDade?
Oh, look, I don't know. I actually think it'll be the most low key derby match you'll see between Coleraine and Ballymena in years.
I can totally see that.
I don't see Ballymena bringing up a big crowd. Because I don't think that we're going to have a massive crowd. It doesn't feel like there's anybody talking about it. I think it'll just be one of them games. I think Coleraine probably won it like 2-0 or something. Just going through the motions.
I think both teams will be going through the motions in this game, no matter what the result is, and it won't really impact. Well, Ballymena are still pushing to get 7th place, I'm sure, but I don't know if the players are proving to be showing that they really are pushing to do it at times, the way their performances goes. We'll see. There's points to be had and points to be won. We'll flick through it very quickly. Glentoran have 2 games before the next time that I'm chatting to you fine listener. First one is away to Taylor's Avenue. The other one is at home versus Glenavon on the stream. I think Carrick Rangers is winning that. I feel very strongly that Carrick Rangers is winning Taylor's Avenue against Glentoran.
Jeepers.
And it is a wee bit of, I saw them on Saturday and they looked very structured at the back and going forward, clearly, Nidas Makulaitis is pulling something off there for them. I can see him score 2 goals and all of a sudden Glentoran going, oh, let's sign him. He's only just signed. So yeah, I think that'll be a big game for Carrick. And then Glenavon come to town, and then that's just the throw your dice in the air game and then see what happens. I think they'll come back and beat Glenavon, if I'm being honest. But they are missing Niall McGinn since he came off, which I didn't think I would say earlier on in January. And then Glenavon's an odd one for them, so Yeah, that could be anything for me.
Glentoran, I don't know what it is. Psychologically, they just seem to be so badly damaged, don't they? You know,
I thought they'd fixed it with the Macquarie run. I really saw how they got McMenamin back. McGinn had a bit of sharpness and skill that was going to make the difference up top in this league. And it's look, they've had big games. Let's be real. They've had to go against the Crews. They've had that poor run against Glavin. It's not a complete meltdown, but I did at one point think that Guntorn could go all the way all of a sudden, but they're not.
no.
So
Glentoran's season now rests upon trying to top three.
no one will be a bigger Lawrence supporter in the Irish Cup more than Glentoran. That's safe to say. They'll be waving the flag for Lauren the whole way through because that has massive connotations in regards to how hefty or how difficult it could be in the playoff. Then on Saturday we have Dungannon Swifts against Carrick and Newry against Portadown. Well, I tell a lie. Maybe Portadown will be waving Carrick Rangers flags as if it's going out of fashion on Saturday, but they have to do their own bit of business. I think I said earlier on that Niall Curry said that simply Portadown must win against Newry or they're all but down. I think this might have a little bit of spice after the man in the blue coat incident meant that Portadown had 3 less points than what they've earned on the pitch. I think if Newry get the win here, they are safe from automatic relegation, which will be a massive achievement for Darren Mullen and his team. But they have to step up. A feisty and entertaining game down, 5:30 at the Newry Showgrounds this Saturday.
Peter, I think Portadown can go down and win that game. I really do. You know, I've seen Yuri play a number of times this season, and they've never done anything that's distinctly impressed me as such. You know what I mean? And I think Niall Curry, as a manager, if he can't get his players up for this game on Saturday, then they don't deserve to stay in the league.
What Portdown do have is they have better forward play now with McElroy and Carfrail than I'd said Newry have. Newry have better wideouts, it's fair to say, with McGovern and Thielen and whoever that mix up is in there. If Newry can sit back and hold their nerve and get a draw, they will take that every day of the week. Portadown, they simply need to win. Interesting to see what kind of crowd gets down to that because Portadown won against Dungannon on a Friday evening. They beat Glenavon 5:30. So perhaps under the light is where the Curry magic happens. And yes, Dungannon, spurred on by their big cup success, welcome Carrick potentially after a big win against Glentoran, but probably not. I think Carrick want this 7th place. They are the hungriest for the 7th place. And Swifts will have to be up for this. It's cleared in their home patch. Carrick will not have their foot off the gas in one iota. And if I'm backing Carrick to beat Glentoran, then I've got to back them to beat Dungannon, surely. The
I
only
think
game at 3 o'clock on Saturday. Isn't that?
I think Carrick won that. They've got quality all over the pitch. Like you mentioned Ben Tilney earlier. Like he's such a good player. You know what I mean? Like why is he playing for, no disrespect, Carrick when he could play for a top 16?
That's what I thought when I saw him on Saturday. Because not only does he have this highlight reel stuff where he's doing little spins and making defenders dizzy and coming in from the wing, he's also at the back, like doing all the hard work. And he signed a brand new contract as well. 2 big contracts signed over the past couple of weeks. Stuart King signed till 2026 and Ben Tilney signed for a while. So Carrick are clearly capitalising on this market of being somewhat close to Belfast and people who don't want to be full-time footballers. Is working out for them.
Do you know why Ben Tilney is such a good technician? He played futsal, and that's where his silky skills and all derive from.
Is that like indoor football?
It's that in indoor football they play with a heavier ball; it doesn't bounce. and that's where his skills all derive from. So there you go.
Yeah, I when I saw him again on Saturday, totally prisoner of the moment. I thought he would look pretty good for the front line of most top six teams. He was sharp. And to wrap it up, Monday game, another Sky Sports one. Crusaders against Cliftonville. Will they do what so many top six teams do, particularly when they're against each other and when the cameras are on? Will this be a contender for most boring game of the season?
No, no way, Peter. This one's going to be full of bite. Like Cliftonville are hurting. They are hurting. They are hurting really bad. They've been knocked out of the Irish Cup. Like they will be putting everything into this game to get something out of it.
A long week, as they say, a big, long time to stew. Glentoran will have played 2 games in the time that they have been sitting out after that Dungannon game, and that'll be replaying. They'll be. Pat McLaughlin probably still hasn't lost the redness from his face from the anger of how it all went down. So I agree, but they have to go to the hardest place officially now, in my humble opinion. They have to go to the hardest place to do it. Crusaders. This is the Rainbow Road of Irish League grounds at the minute.
Look, I don't know where Cliftonville can beat them next week, but I just think it is going to be a real like a Monday night game under the lights on Sky TV. The fans are going to just be at it from the first minute, and it's going to drive the game on. That's my thoughts here at the business end of the season. You have to go out and you have to go for it. Now you have to go out and win the game. If Crusaders do what Crusaders do and get them into this Crusaders battle, Crusaders win it.
And let's also put a scenario out here, which is very realistic. If Larne beat the Blues and Crusaders do what they usually do and win at home, is a 9-point gap Larne have on Cliftonville. 10 points on Linfield. The split might not have much to say about where this league goes. It clearly will, but we talk about cushions. That's a 4-piece suite.
Lauren have to come to Korean twice, and if Korean are on it, Korean will cause them damage like they will. Korean at home when they're on form are a hard team to deal with. Like there's no way Lauren come to Korean, famous last words here, and take 6 points.
So much fun, so much to play for. There will be trophies handed out. There has to be a red card handed out somewhere over the past week, just to make it fun for me, I guess. But another fun week. Peaky, I don't know if I'll be chatting to you before the Gibson Cup is handed out. If you had to put your money on, are you back in Larne? I know you would rather the trophy go to Crusaders, but who you sticking your neck on the line and saying it's going to go to?
For the first time in their history, Larne.
It would be an incredible story, as I highlighted last week. And like I've also said, whoever wins this league is going to be an amazing story. It's going to be fascinating. And I think a lot of things will be a lot more clear by this time next week. Peaky, been a pleasure. Plug the things people know about your vlogs. As always, not just about the past weekend. Any fun ones over the past while you want to point people to? There's clearly a lot more heartbreak than jubilation over the past while.
I know. I can't remember the last time I went to a happy place. Oh, look, if people want to go and see a bit of action through the eyes of me and the Wayne, just go to the YouTube channel onto the Peakies and watch away. There's nothing specific to watch, but in this week, you can go and watch last year's League Cup final and watch misery.
Till next time, chat soon. Thank you.
Cheers, Peter.
We're good? I think we're good. Weird week. We've only got one game at 3 p.m. That's just the time of year that we're at. Lots of Tuesdays, Fridays, Mondays, Sundays, cup finals, whatever. It's coming at us thick and fast. But we better enjoy it because it might not be here very soon. As in, like, the season's going to end in a couple of weeks. But that's fine because either we're all going to be put out of our misery or we're going to be having a great time at the end of the season. Whatever way it works, I think a big old shindig is probably the way to deal with both those emotions. With it being so all over the place, you should follow me and see me chatting on Twitter. That's a good way to figure out what's going down or interact when your team isn't playing or waiting for them to do that. You can follow me on Twitter at Kicking Match on Twitter. That's also the way you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook. Just Kick a Match. The only thing that's different is you have to do hey smart speaker if you want to listen to your smart speaker or whatever your smart speaker is called. Hey them, please can you play Kicking Match, an Irish League podcast. There you go. That's it. Enjoy your week between now and then. Hopefully you're seeing football. If not, if you're taking a chill, having the Chinese, this is me saying to you, you don't need to experiment. You know what you want. Don't change it up. I know you ordered it for the 8th week in a row, but do it, alright? Do it for me, alright? It's your favourite dish. Enjoy it. Have a good one. Alright? Enjoy your Chinese. All the best. Peace. Bye.